The end of the book of Genesis, from chapter 37, tells us about Joseph. This is Joseph, the one with a coat of many colours, whose brothers were jealous of him. So they sold him to some Ishmaelites, and he was taken to Egypt. Joseph ended up working for one of Pharaoh's officials, but the wife of the official lied about Joseph, and he ended up being put in prison. As you read the events in Genesis, it is clear that what happened to Joseph was very unfair. Joseph lost his job and his freedom, yet he'd done nothing wrong. But in verse 20 we read, "But while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him." When things go wrong in our lives, when our plans don't work out, or when life seems unfair, it's easy to wonder, where is God in the midst of this? We can feel abandoned by God. We can feel forgotten. We might even blame God for what happened. Yet it is clear that this is not the way that Joseph reacted. There is no sense of him blaming God or even questioning why God had allowed this to happen. Somehow, Joseph seems able to have accepted the place he was in and got on with his life, finding new ways to serve God in that new context, being faithful to him, confident in the knowledge that God was with him. Despite the circumstances, Joseph had faith and trusted in God's promises, knowing that God still had a plan and a purpose for his life. While he was in prison, Joseph brought God's meaning to the dreams of two fellow prisoners, the cupbearer and the baker for Pharaoh. When those two were subsequently released from prison and the interpretations came true, the cupbearer forgot his promise to Joseph, leaving Joseph in prison for a further 2 years. Another 2 whole years in prison. And yet, in all of this, Joseph still trusted in God's promises, knowing God was faithful. Today, I want to encourage you that whatever lockdown is like for us right now, God is with us too. Whether we're home alone, trying to homeschool, trying to work at home, out of work, working on the front line, God is with us. The place we now find ourselves in may be very different to a couple of months ago, but God is still there. The time we have and the way we engage with God may be very different. Perhaps the idea of a quiet time for more than 2 minutes seems like a distant dream right now. But God is there with us. And like Joseph, we too can find new ways of engaging with God and serving him in this new place as we keep on trusting in his promises.